All right. Welcome back to Adventure's Edge. Again, this is DM Don talking a bit more about some specific use cases for skills. I'm going to dive right back into the same spot. I'm going to bring the character sheet back up here because I just want to really kind of cover quickly how skills work in the game. Now, I mentioned whenever you're rolling a skill check, you're going to roll a d20. If you have got bonus edge or minus edge, which means roll and take the lowest. If you've got minus one edge to something, you'll add your skill total. So looking at all the different skill proficiencies, there are a couple that are a little bit different. And let me just drop down here under discipline. So in the discipline section, you'll see you have this little spot here called adept powers. So adept powers are special physical maneuvers your character can get. There's, I believe, 100 adept powers currently in the game, and more will be added over time. It's one of those types where we can expand the game out kind of laterally to have more and interesting powers. But adept powers are all, it's like personal magic. It's powered off of your class power, which is going to be your will stat, or wisdom stat. So there's a lot of adept powers. You just have to read through them. There's things that let you, run across walls and do fancy jumping or, dodges, maybe do some water running. They're all very personal in nature, improved breathing techniques, things that you could almost think, I wanted to say like Jedi powers, but you're not doing a lot of external manipulation. They're all about, almost all of them are about internal manipulation. Running without tiring and things like that. So there's a lot of really cool powers. In our playtest, one of our characters, Todd, he got this jumping adept proficiency that he used pretty extensively to do some battlefield maneuvering and to be able to leap, 20 feet up onto ledges and things like that. So they're super cool. They allow you to sort of replicate a lot of like the wire fu sort of maneuvers. It's kind of interesting. So it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of adept powers, and you can get a new adept power for each proficiency that you get in discipline. You can only get one per level because you have to get one per rank that you get. Although if you had a class that had a 5 discipline, a class that had a class skill that gave you those 5 ranks, at first level you could conceivably start off with a good little chunk of adept powers. But going forward, they're going to be things that you hunt around and find trainers to let you learn new and interesting adept powers in the game. All right. The second one that is similar, where it's like a track here, is going to be under general knowledge, you have regional knowledges. So in the game, if you want to know an area, it could be your hometown, maybe a city, maybe a county. The bigger it goes, the less detailed the lore you have about it. But basically, this is specific regional knowledge that your character knows about. So if you get a proficiency in one of these, you're going to record down here what region it is. And this is one of those things that you'll probably talk to the game master ahead of time. Say, hey, I'd like to get regional knowledge in my hometown. And that totally makes sense, because then if you wanted to make a knowledge check about the hometown, like, hey, where's the best place to get a particular type of food, or, what do I know about the shadier side of town? Anytime you need to make a knowledge check about that region, you would get to roll with bonus edge. So region lore, super helpful. All right. The next one that is similar to that is going to be languages. Now, you will start off with the base language. Everybody's going to be starting off knowing Galtian, which is kind of like the common tongue. You don't spend a proficiency to know that. That's just something you're going to have down here as your base known language. And then if you want to know a second tongue, then you would spend a proficiency to learn that, and so forth. So you can, acquire more languages as you go. Everybody's going to be required to have a common tongue so that there's no weirdness at the table, like, oh, I can't talk to so-and-so. So if you wanted to have a language that's kind of like a racial language, you would spend a proficiency to buy that. But other than that, you'll have your free your free growing up language. Okay, so those particular ones stand out as working a little bit different. Now, the last one I want to cover real quick has to do with spellcraft. So spellcraft is how you learn spells. If you have at least a 12 intelligence, for every rank you put into spellcraft, you are going to learn a spell. Now, there are two categories of spells. There's low magic and high magic. And I'll just real quick hit that. Low magic are the most familiar understanding of low magic is going to be like cantrips. It's folk magic. It's simple magic used by commoners. There's something like 100 low magic spells. These they're not very powerful. They're really not attack based. There are a couple that can do some damage. There's some that do some healing. A lot of them are utility based. I think they're pretty interesting and they really flesh out your character. Every class can learn low magic. Only the quote-unquote magic user classes, which includes magicians and alchemists and things like that, learn spell lists. And I want to cover that in the next video and explain those. But if you wanted to play a martial character and you have a 12 intelligence, you put a rank in spellcraft, you're going to start out with a spell. Now, when you get a rank in spellcraft, for each rank you put in there, you actually learn a number of folk spells equal to your stat bonus. So if you have more than the minimum intelligence, say you have a 14 intelligence, and you put a rank in spellcraft, you have a stat bonus of 2. You're going to learn 2 low magic spells. So maybe you want to be kind of a hedge mage. You're a martial hedge mage, let's say, because you can build almost any type of character in this system, and you want to pump up your intelligence to a 16, right? So now you have a +3, and then you put a couple ranks in spellcraft, you very quickly can get half a dozen interesting little spells. And again, your intelligence is also how many spells per day you can cast. So that is kind of a little fun little thing there. So spellcraft, 1-to-1, you can learn spells. So I wanted to point out that those are unique little cases. Now, the other thing I wanted to really talk about is, and then I'll jump to the next video, has to do with synergies. Because each time you're making a skill check, there might be a corresponding skill that you have some proficiencies in that would make the actual skill you're rolling on a little bit better. And I think one of the examples I used in the book is, say, you're studying a stone wall and you're trying to find a secret door, right? So there isn't under perception a find secret door proficiency. But you can say, hey, I also under crafting, maybe I have stone crafts. That's, you're a carver and you work with stone and you kind of understand, working and carving stone. So you can say, hey, I want to look for a secret door in the stone wall and I have stone crafts. Can I get a bonus edge to my perception check? And then hopefully your game master will be like, of course, right? Because you're looking at something, but you're also looking at a medium that you are familiar with. So that is how you can boost up related skills. And you're going to see that perception, is a pretty critical skill, right? Because perception is your awareness of the world. Every time you're trying to look for something or detect something, you're going to be rolling perception. But if you know something about that topic, you can get a bonus edge, right? If you're trying to do some tracking, right? If you have read tracks, that is going to boost your perception to tracking. Okay, so that's how that works. That actually makes getting, say, trade skills and other skills that you might not roll on the frequent, but you have proficiencies in that help out in other skills. So the skills kind of, work together. So there really aren't any useless skills. This way you can make your character interesting and build it in such a way that you like the concept, but you're not just wasting points, right? You can build it in such a way where you can get the synergy going. So those are things to consider when you are buying your skills. And that's that. So I'm going to move on to the next topic. Thanks again.